Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, Logan Glaser and I are going to tell you 3 of our busts for the coming fantasy football season. These are guys that we're avoiding come draft day, letting somebody else pick. Logan, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
So we talked about sleepers in our last video. This video, we're talking about busts. These are guys that we're probably going to avoid come draft day.
For sure. And there's an extent to this, as if these players keep falling in the drafts, it's okay to take them in a couple of your leagues. It's just you don't want many shares of them and where they're currently being taken at in their ADP.
I agree. Sometimes if they fall to the right price, I'm going to take these guys that I'm going to mention. But you're right. For the most part, I'm going to be fading them come draft
Yeah,
day.
for one of mine, I did take in this Champs League that we did last week. So he just kept falling and falling. But eventually you have to take them if they just keep falling at their ADP level.
All right, well, let's get into it then. So who's your first bust, somebody you're avoiding?
Yeah, my first bust is going to be Davante Adams. There's 2 reasons why I'm going to be avoiding him. One, his age, and one, his QB situation. First off, his age. He's going to be turning 31 this year. There's only 2 wide receivers in all of football that are 31 or older and having production like top tier production in the top 50 wide receiver rankings, and that's DeAndre Hopkins and Keenan Allen. Those are the only 2 wide receivers that are older than him ranked in the top 50, and both of those have been struggling with injuries. So the injury bug might be coming towards Davante Adams just with that age, so that's definitely a concern for me. And then his second situation is with the QB, with Derek Carr being gone and Jimmy Garoppolo taking over. Garoppolo doesn't target downfield as much. He's more of those quick, short passes, release the ball quickly. So that's definitely a concern for Adams, especially with he relies so much what he did in Green Bay with his touchdowns. And he's currently being drafted at 17 for his ADP, so that's a bit too high of a price for me to pay for him.
Yeah, definitely a high price if you want to get Adams. I can totally understand why you'd be fading him. I actually have a former teammate of Adams as my first bust, and that is New York Giants tight end Darren Waller. He was dealt to the Giants this offseason, takes over as their starting tight end. My issue with Waller is he just can't stay healthy. He's played just 20 games the last 2 seasons because of various injuries. Now he moves to a new offense, an offense that's not going to throw quite as much as Las Vegas did. I think he could see less targets. Waller might still have a decent season, but I'm expecting his numbers to be up and down, especially compared to past years. And I just have a hard time expecting consistency from him in a move to a new offense and with his injury issues of the past. I'm just letting somebody else deal with him. I don't think he's worth the risk. All right, give me another bust, Logan.
Yeah, next bust is going to be Kenneth Walker, who I did take in that Champs League. So Kenneth Walker currently has an ADP of 32, and it's not that I don't think he's the most talented, but the situation is not great for him this year. Seahawks just drafted Charbonnet in the 2nd round. They're going to be using Charbonnet just as much as I think Walker with that offense. You don't draft a running back in the 2nd round and not use them. So that's definitely a concern. And Seattle, they're going to have an electric offense, but there are so many mouths to feed. You got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, and Charbonnet, and then Walker. So, I mean, those are 5 elite players that all need to get fed in that offense. So the volume is definitely a concern for me there. Again, I got him in my Champs League at 45, which that was just too far for him to drop in value-wise, which is why I took him. But currently being drafted at an ADP of 32, it's just too early for me.
I agree with that. And sometimes players are better in different formats, and I think all those
Absolutely.
Seahawks, I feel better in a best ball format.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you just don't know when those big games are going to hit. They're going to hit. You just don't know when they
Yeah,
hit.
if you're in a standard league, you want more of a safer play,
Yeah.
and you don't want those boomer bust plays.
All right, I'm gonna talk about another player that is on a new team as a bust, and I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets. I think a move to New York is going to be a positive for Rodgers, getting a chance to play with a little better talent around him offensively, especially at receiver, than he has the past few years with Green Bay. But you just can't ignore last year. Rodgers was just 13th overall in fantasy quarterback scoring. He had just 2 games all season with 20-plus fantasy points. That's a really low number. He threw for less than 3,700 yards, failed to reach 30 total touchdowns on the season, had just 1 3-touchdown game all season. I just don't think he's the same player as past years. I know he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, want to prove everybody wrong, but I just think with all the good QBs out there in fantasy land this year, I'm avoiding Rodgers. I just don't think he's worth the risk, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, Logan, give me your last bust on the list.
Yeah, last bust is going to be Michael Pittman. So last year, expectations were extremely high for Pittman. He entered the draft season around being taken the top 12 wide receivers overall, but he had a very disappointing season, finishing outside of the top 20 for wide receivers. He's currently being drafted in an ADP of around 70 in this year's drafts, and I think he takes an even bigger hit with Richardson coming into that Colts camp as projected to be one of the starters for their quarterback. So, and Richardson struggles with pass accuracy. I think that's kind of knowledge what he does not excel with, and he's more of a running quarterback. So I think there's going to be less targets this year compared to Matt Ryan last year.
Yeah, I don't mind that call as well with Pittman. It could be a dip in production. He had a lot of catches last year despite playing in a bad offense. But like you said, Richardson is a concern. So my last bust might surprise some people, but I'm scared to take him. That's Derrick Henry with the Tennessee Titans. It's hard to get a bet against him. I know, super talented, but his huge workload throughout his career is a concern for me. He has led the league in rush attempts 3 of 4 seasons. He isn't getting any younger. His bruising running style is a concern for me as well. It has to catch up with him at some point, in my opinion. And I think the Titans are a mess offensively. I talked about Chig Okonkwo in the last video. I liked him as a sleeper, but overall, they lack a lot of weapons offensively. I think teams are really going to stack the box against Tennessee this year and try to take away that run. I think that's bad news for Henry. I worry about him slowing down. And again, high price tag. I just don't know if I want to use that on Derrick Henry at this stage of his career. So I'm avoiding him this year. I think he could be a bust. All right, Logan, that's our 3 of our busts that we think are going to happen this year. Appreciate you joining me on the video.
For sure. Thanks for having me on.
And I wanted to mention too, don't forget about our commissioner product here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. And before the end of the month, before the end of June, you need to sign up if you want to get that discount, 20% if you sign up for the end of June.
20% off. Go ahead and log into your league. Under the league tab, select on payment, and then that's where you'll see that 20% off, valid up until the end of June 30th.
Yeah, don't forget to take advantage of that. Also, don't forget to take advantage of all of our leagues here at RealTime Fantasy Sports, rtsports.com. Click on that Money League link if you're not in a commissioner league. See all the different offerings. We have best ball leagues, All-American, different price points. We have dime best ball, big championships as well. TFC's $500,000 this year, best ball championship as well. Great championships here at RealTime Fantasy
Absolutely,
Sports.
lots of money to be won.
Exactly, and put this knowledge to use and win your leagues this year as well. Again, thanks so much for joining me, Logan. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
This has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports.
And this has been Logan Glaser from RealTime Fantasy Sports.
Good luck in all your leagues this year.